Dear viewers, today I'm going to talk about an enigmatic and much debated topic. There are many views which are disputable and debatable in this regard. Individually, there are beliefs and disbeliefs, and religion wise, there are beliefs and disbeliefs. And this happens to be the much debated, and as such, there is no concrete conclusion to say anything about this. So, the topic which I choose to talk about today is predestination. Does this predestination work? Does it operate? Do we need to believe in it? Is it fate or is it the free will? And most of the times, when the developments that we come across and many things happening in our life and many things that we witness around the world, we feel that they are highly injudicious and you cannot really have an explanation how much you ponder on that. And at times you really feel, does this fate really work? Because you see, many undeserving will be enjoying their life, and then the mostly deserving will not be able to lead a happy life, and all these things make you think that the so-called predestination is questionable. At the same time, when you do not find an explanation for many things again, you arrive to the conclusion that it is all because of the fate. So this is the most intriguing concept, and sometimes when you don't find an explanation, you conclude that it is because of the fate, and sometimes that the way the things are happening, you really wonder and ponder on it, and you'll be surprised to really whether or not to believe it, or whether to take it as a fate or not. The problem with many of the concepts is certain views are purely religious, and those who are religious and those who are theists are completely drawn to conclude whatever is traditionally and conventionally believed. The so-called religious are also drawn to conclude the same things and believe the same thing, and they continue to believe the same and pass on the same opinions and judgments even to the next generation, and without even a thought to examine it, people start believing it for generations together. That is how the religious beliefs will go on. At the other end, coming to the science is something which is purely objective, evidence based, and you need to objectify the things. Things must be measurable and reliable, reproducible. The observation must be reproducible, and it should be undisputable, and it should be universally acceptable. With so many preconditions, the scientific concepts are laid much upon the physical concepts and measurable concepts, which are testified, tested, time tested, and these are the science goes on. So science is purely objectified viewing of things or observations. And when it comes to religious approach, it is purely subjective. And what you believe, the other one may not believe. That's how it goes. And it is purely subjective. And it cannot be testified. So, on these grounds, purely confining yourself only to the scientific observations also will deprive you of certain possibilities which you can otherwise realize, because not everything can be seen, not everything can be heard, and this world is beyond what we can see and what we can perceive, and what is visible to our eyes and what is audible to our ears is only a fraction, and it's only a finite when compared to what is not audible to the ears and what is not visible to the eyes. And similarly, entirely confining to the religious beliefs without a check, without a further check, without an introspection, without an examination, completely taking it for granted just because it is adapted for many generations, is also completely wrong. In a way, science is also as superstitious as religious beliefs at times. And there is a famous saying which I heard from one of my friends, too often quoted by him, a scholar. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. It means a lot. It means a lot. What it means is what you cannot see, you cannot say that that is not there. And what you cannot perceive, you cannot say that that is not there. It is our limitation to perceive it. That's what it means. So there must be always an open mind which can adapt a bit of scientific approach and religious approach, and we must try to arrive to a common point without a prejudice, considering merits in both and then discarding the demerits in both. Examine for ourselves and realize on our own. That is when this gap can be filled, and a religion can be more scientific, and even a science will become wholesome. So these are a sort of a prelude for the concept that I am going to talk about. So today my focus will be mainly on this predestination, and some choose to believe and some choose not to believe. Our actions, thoughts, inclinations, temperament, they all spring from pre-existing impressions. To put it more simply, the deep-rooted impressions in our mind, they decide what we think, what we speak, what we do, and what your choices are, what your likes and dislikes. All these things, this everything is not without a reference to an impression that is deeply rooted in your subconscious mind. You choose to do something or you choose not to do something only because of the driving force of these impressions which are embedded into this subconscious level of the mind. And so long you are driven by these impressions lying in the subconscious mind, there can never be a second thought, and you will not recheck, and most of the times you don't even think of the consequences, and you simply go ahead doing all that you are used to do. Maybe it's the pattern of thinking, maybe the way you talk, maybe the things that you do, be it in professional life or personal life or social life, whatnot, everything, anything and everything from the moment you get up till the moment you go to bed, all your activity that you carry out in a day, it is completely in the line of the impressions that are deep rooted in your subconscious mind. So this kind of set of actions which are carried out, which is driven by this subconscious component of the mind, it is there is an apt word to describe this pattern of behavior. What rather I would say, it's a kind of it is in a kind of autopilot mode. So it is set to some kind of settings, and your life goes according to those settings unless you interfere. These settings will decide the pattern in which you lead your life, and consequently it is not just the pattern, even outcome of the things that you do routinely, they are also very much predictable. Say for example, if you feel that you are not capable enough of pursuing a particular education in a particular field, which you are desirous of, but still you lack that confidence, thinking that you will not be able to pursue that. You may be under impression that you are not capable enough and competent enough, and this impression of not competitive enough and capable enough, it springs from your previous experience, and some failure somewhere in the past leaves an impression that you are not capable and competent. And with reference to an impression that is left behind by this failure, it doesn't allow you to pursue anything further in the same lines which you want to pursue. Likewise, even the most trivial things, right from the type of food that you like, and what you relish and what you cannot relish, and everything it is in a kind of a set pattern. And the bottom line is, because of all this, when the life is governed by all these pre-existing impressions, the subconscious mind, the things, the outcome, the results, they become very much predictable, whatever you do. So it's almost like you already decide before doing something or not doing something. Right in the beginning, when the thought occurs about anything in your daily life or about the future ahead, it's as if your action, your thought will be in a sort of a predetermined fashion. You choose to do or you do not choose to do. Likewise, it goes on, and I would, in a nutshell, I would say it becomes very much predictable, and it looks very much like a predestined journey. And this, so long when the life is driven by these pre-existing impressions in the subconscious mind, it is very much like being under the influence of what you call predestination, or rather you may call it as a fate. So, in the language of psychology, when you want to extrapolate to the concept of fate under the as a part of religious belief, the bridge between these two is all that is lying in your subconscious mind is determining what you do, and it turns out to be predetermined, and this is what is a predestination or the fate in terms of religious beliefs, you call it. So, to continue further, extending further to this concept of predestination, which is entirely because of the pre-existing ideas, preconditioned mind. Overcoming these impressions in the subconscious mind, it is nothing but overcoming your predestination, overcoming the fate, going beyond the fate, growing beyond the fate, or when your thought, word, and deed, when it is free from the influence of these impressions of the subconscious mind, then that is when the free will starts manifesting. So there is room for the free will, but it makes its appearance when you when you allow it. When you do not recognize the influence of this subconscious mind, pre-existing impressions, and if you leave it unattended, then it is as though it is under the influence of the past and under the influence of the predestination and fate and all that. But the moment you recognize these deep-rooted impressions can be overcome, and you can go beyond, grow beyond, erasing all these impressions, making it a clean slate again on which you can rewrite. It can be done, and when you make a fresh beginning, then that's the point where your free will begins. You might wonder, how is this possible? But certainly I can say it is not as easy as I say. It's an uphill toss. It's an uphill toss. Not an easy thing to really handle the mind, to really handle with your inclinations, your impulsive behavior, impulsive thoughts, obsessions, fear, negative thinking, and polarities in thinking, like calling certain thing your own definitions of success and failure, good and bad. These things cannot be so easily erased. But there is a way, and certainly we will never be condemned with this predestination. The first thing that we need to realize is that it is possible to get out of the clutches of this predestination. The first thing is to have the conviction that it can be done, and you can be free from the clutches of this predestination, or the fate, you may call it. First thing is to believe that it is possible. Otherwise, you can't even make a beginning, and it will be even unthinkable if you do not believe in it. Unless you believe in it, you cannot make a beginning. Then how do I begin? Where do I begin? A simple example of what is predestination and how it is predictable, I would say for example, if you start a journey, you are driving the vehicle at a speed of 100 km per hour. So, to predict how far you would have traveled in a span of 5 hours, you can easily say that at the rate of traveling 100 kilometers per hour, after a span of 5 hours, you would have covered 500 kilometers. That is very much predictable, is because it is following certain pattern, and when you are aware of that pattern, when you stick to that pattern, things become very much predictable. The same example, when you believe that the direction or destination or anything can be changed at any time, the same example of you can as well slow down the speed, or you can accelerate, or you can take a U-turn, or you can as well come to a halt, or you may take a turn to the left or right because the steering is in your hands. And unlike in your predestination, where it is in a kind of an autopiloting mode, this is a typical example of autopiloting mode. When the vehicle is going in 100 km per hour, when it is in autopilot mode, when you do not interfere with it, obviously in a span of 5 years it covers a distance of 500 kilometers. And it can't be otherwise. But when you believe that the direction can be changed, destination can be changed because the steering is with you, then as I told earlier, every other possibility comes into the picture, and you need to choose what to do. So likewise, when it is in autopiloting mode, it is the driver is it is a subconscious mind which is deciding your life. I mean, the progression of your life, a journey of your life in autopiloting mode. But when you choose to go beyond it, the first thing is be conscious about your subconscious mind. And hardly any of us are conscious about this subconscious element. We may be carrying out our daily routine, we may be doing something, but whatever the activity you are involved in, undercurrents of subconscious thought will be influencing your direction of thinking and your inclination, tendencies. It keeps on operating under undercurrents. Unless you are watchful about your thoughts, unless you are simply a witness of your thoughts, without being carried away by the thoughts, that's the first moment you become completely aware of your subconscious mind. So the first thing that you need to do is be conscious, be watchful, and witness the thoughts coming up. And when you detach yourself, and when you do not get carried away by the thoughts, and simply when you remain as a witness, naturally you are separating yourself from that flow of thoughts, and more watchful you are about the thoughts that are coming up, less will be the flow of thought, intensity of thought. And when it becomes a habit to keep watching your thoughts, see, this watching of thoughts can be done in routine day-to-day activity when you are carrying on with your day-to-day activities, or more so, this should be the practice when you are sitting for the meditation. So the only the the core and the seat of the meditational effect lies in this technique of witnessing your thoughts. It's not about controlling the breathing, and it's not about pranayama, it's not about chanting, it's not about 101 methods of the meditation, what you might have heard or what you have been taught, or many cults must have taught you about different methods of meditation. But what is to be done? The core, the seat of this meditation technique is to be watchful about the thoughts that are emanating from your subconscious mind. So it's like the bubbles bubbling up from the bottom of the lake to the surface. So that's how thoughts keep popping up, and you need to be watchful. Don't get carried away with these thoughts. Be watchful, and more watchful you are about the thoughts that are coming up, less you'll be influenced by these thoughts. You're just like you're standing on the platform of a railway station and watching the train as it is passing by. But when you're carried away by the thoughts, you are in the train just being carried away by the train wherever it goes. But when you're watching, it's like standing on the platform and watching the train passing by. And the destination the train is going to go is not your destination. So you take destination into your hands, and you choose to which way to go, when to go, whether or not to go. So when you become a witness of these thoughts, the intensity, the frequency, they come down, and finally, over a period of practice for months or even years, it depends from individual to individual. It depends on the strength of commitment and consistency in the practice. So many factors, but whatever the factors are, but finally, when you consistently practice over a period, you reach a point where the thoughts emerging from the subconscious mind will not trouble you at all, and you will reach a point where the emergence of the thoughts from your mind will be very minimal, and even every thought that is occurring also will be very much witnessed by you, and gradually over a period of time it doesn't influence you at all. You don't get influenced by these thoughts that are occurring, and completely your act will be at your will. Nothing will be irresistible, nothing will be out of your control. Once you start watching your thoughts, it's as if you have completely taken control of your life. After all, your life is nothing but what you do, and what you do is nothing but, and what you do is nothing but what you think, and what you think, when it is habitual thinking, it leads to a predetermined fashion, and when the thinking and action is at your will, the life is at your will. So in a way, the meditation is, technically speaking, it is helping you to minimize the level of the subconscious mind and influence of the subconscious mind in gradations for a period of time, and more the level of subconscious mind, when it is brought down, more and more will be the level of the conscious mind which you are conscious about, which means your thought, word and deed you are very much conscious about. So it is not exaggeration if I say, when this is practiced over a period of time, it is as if you have completely taken into your hands the reins of your life. So this, in a way, I can boldly state that you go beyond this concept of predestination or the fate you call it, and you're not the victim of your fate anymore. The life is in your hands completely.